I'm going to go through the ratio table homework, and I'm going to go through the review problem on the back. And the way I'm going to do this is in 3 parts. So on the website, you'll see 3 videos. The first one that I'm going to do is just going to be problem 1, using what we learned in class to use a part-to-whole comparison to find a percent. When we read the directions, it says to use ratio tables, so that's our action, to find the following percent. So we want to figure out what percent 3 out of 5 is. So the ratio 3 out of 5 is also a percent. Can be written as a percent. And so we're going to do a part-to-whole comparison. The part is 3 out of 5. And so what we learned in class was the goal is to get the whole part to be out of 100, because percent means per 100, which means instead of 3 per 5, we want something per 100. So using the skill of ratio tables, one strategy would just be to double this to get this to 10. The whole goal of ratio tables is to minimize any scratch work and try to use your mental math skills. So if I double this, I get the equivalent ratio 6 out of 10, and now I can multiply by 10, because my goal is to get 100 in the whole part. So I have 60 out of 100. So because it's per 100, that means my answer is 60%. So sometimes the number at the bottom of the ratio, in this case, like 8, doesn't go into 100 evenly. So one other skill we learned in our note catcher is you could multiply by 100 right away. So that's what I'm doing here. 3 times 100 is 300. And then my goal is to get 100 here. And in order to get 100, I have to divide by 8. And in a ratio table, you do the same thing on the top of the table as you do on the bottom when using division and multiplication. So I have to do 300 divided by 8. So there is a little scratch work for some of you there. Others of you could probably do this with mental math. But 8 times 3 is 24. So our remainder is 6. So 8 times 7 is 56. And you might notice that I have a remainder of 4. So this is 37 and 4 eighths, which is really the same as 37 and a half. So that's my percent, 37.5%. That's your final answer. The next one, what is 7 out of 15? So this one, you have to put the whole in for yourself. Still want to get to 100. So there's different things we could do. Some people might times by 100, try that strategy. Or you could even try a different strategy of timesing by 10, and there's no telling sometimes what way works best. But if I times by 10, let's just see how it works. Maybe it'll work nicely. Maybe I'll want to erase and redo. My goal is to get 100 here. So it's pretty hard to get 100 there with mental math. So I think, oh, I don't really like that method. I'm going to change this to 100. So that would just be multiplying 7 by 100 instead of 10. And now divide by 15. I would get 100. because 1,500 divided by 15 is 100, and so I have a little bit of side work to do here. So if I divide by 15, 15 goes into 70 4 times, and then 15 goes into 100. Well, think about that. 6 times 15 is 90. So I have a remainder of 10. So it's 46. And my remainder is 10 out of 15. But if we think about that, 46 and 10 out of 15, 10 out of 15, if you divide both of those by 5, you get 2 out of 3. So 46 and 2/3 percent. And then when you have any problem, it's good to stop, of course, and think if your answer is reasonable. So like half of 15 would be 7.5%, 7.5. And so 7 is a little less than half of 15. And 50% is half. I have a little less than 50%, so I feel pretty good about that number. Now we're going to look at the last question, which is a different question altogether. How can 136%, so this is 136% right here, be written as a simplified fraction? So the goal is to kind of go the opposite direction, reduce as much as you can. So maybe some of you might divide by 2, that would be 50. And if I divide 136 by 2, 100 divided by 2 is 50, and 36 divided by 2 is 18. So if I add those together, I get 68. So I can divide by 2 again, and that's 25, and this would be 34. And now I can try to get this down even more, but 25 and 34 don't have any common factors. So I could just divide by 25. That would give me a 1 here, and it would be 1 and 9 out of 25. So think about how I did that. I figured out how many times does 25 go into 34. 25 goes into 34 1 time. When I subtract, I have to borrow here, and I get a 9, my remainder 9. So 1 and 9 over 25. So that's one way to write that as a simplified fraction. Okay, I'm going to post that little video, and then we'll do the second one.